Hello my fellow family foodie friends, it's Jackie and welcome back to another week of What's for Dinner. This week I am making lots of yummy stuff. The one I'm looking forward to the most is our Cracker Barrel inspired dinner. We recently went there on a date night and it was so delicious that I had to make the Cracker Barrel breakfast casserole because let's just say my belly was inspired. Anyways, if you're new around here, I am Jackie and I love to make meals, make meal plans, and feed my family. So it is something I take a lot of pride in, and I hope that my excitement and the joy I get from feeding my family translates into something that can inspire and encourage you to do the same for your family. Okay, so the first thing I'm doing for tostadas tonight, we have our shells there, is I'm making homemade refried beans. I don't always make them homemade, but they are very good, and I'm sure they're better for you. So I'm using a pound of pinto beans. I'll rinse these out. I have 5 cups of water. You can use chicken broth, but I'm not going to because of my vegetarian daughter. She loves refried beans. A single can of green chilies, an entire onion, a teaspoon of cumin, a half teaspoon of salt, and then a tablespoon of this minced garlic, and we'll get it into the Instant Pot and cook it, and then we'll use my immersion blender when it's all done. We are gonna let it cook for 45 minutes once it reaches high pressure, and then we'll let the pressure naturally release. I'm actually gonna go run errands while this is running. The beans have finished 45 minutes ago and the pressure is released. So now I'm gonna remove excess liquid, and then you save it if you wanna make your beans a little thinner. So I'm just actually dipping a measuring cup in there, gonna get some of the liquid to come in, and then I'll use my immersion blender. Okay, so I'm adding a little more salt. I just tested them. They're very good. Elsie liked them. Okay, so you guys have seen, this is nacho cheese. We got it for the Super Bowl, and I'm trying to use it in different ways. We like it on tostadas, so I'm just adding some to my little dipper. I love this little dipper. It heats stuff so nicely, and I'm putting it in here about an hour and a half before we're gonna have dinner. So I've shared before that I mass make my taco meat. I make at least 5 pounds at a time when I make it, and then I store it in baggies and in the freezer. And then I pull out a bag when it's time to have a taco type meal. So I have a bag of prepared taco meat here. Also, side note, I'm using my green pans. I love these things. They're so easy to clean and super non-stick. I definitely think this is a great purchase. And as a reminder, any kitchen items I use and love, even these wooden spoons, I link below in my description. Okay, toppings for the tostadas. We have the beans, the nacho cheese, the beef, of course, onion, mini peppers. These are left over from a roast last week. Romaine lettuce, cilantro, Aldi chunky salsa. I had froze this probably a couple months ago now. It was on super clearance there. I bought all of them as I had, and they freeze amazing. You just take them out the day before. And Aldi sour cream. And then our favorite lime and garlic cantina salsa. And you build it however you want. I start with beans on the bottom, then nacho cheese, then beef, and then all my fresh stuff. I peeled my carrots and I kind of just used the only 3 that I had. I'd probably put a little bit more. My husband got me this brand new julienner for Valentine's Day. He remembered that I thought it sounded cool and I thought it was really nice that he got it for me. So I'm gonna show you guys how it works. I have the nasty peels over here, and then And voila, you have julienne carrots. So I'm actually just doing julienne carrots right into the soup instead of my normal because I'm excited to use this. Obviously these are a little awkward shape for a soup, but I'm just too excited to use this. This would be perfect for like salads, for stir fries, which is why I wanted it. I already have onion left over from last night's tostadas. I usually use about a half. This is a little less than a half, but I'm just gonna make it work. So now I'm gonna stick 3 tablespoons butter, my chopped onion. Normally, like I said, I do a little bit more than this, but this is leftover, and so I'm just happy to use whatever's left. I have my julienne 3 carrots. You can slice them if you don't want big long pieces like this, but like I said, I've been so excited. And I'm just gonna saute these to get very nice aromatics, get the carrots a little softer, cook the onions a little bit, and then I put this in the crock pot with everything else, and it will cook itself the rest of the day. Obviously, I'm preparing this in the morning. Okay, so normally I like to use the Queso Blanco. I was lucky enough to score some from Aldi, which is way less expensive than Velveeta, but I have some of the regular yellow to use, and I just want it out of my fridge, so I'm gonna use this, and then the rest of my pound is gonna come from Queso Blanco. I have made this same soup with just Queso Blanco, with just the yellow Velveeta to use up what I have, or a combination, and it works really well. My favorite is all Queso Blanco, but since I have this to use up, I wanna get that out of my fridge. That's what the frugal part of me has to do. So I have a pound all together, and then I'm just kind of chopping it up into very rough cubes so that it will stir a little easier, and the smaller pieces will allow it to melt just a bit easier. Obviously Velveeta is known as a great melter. That's why it's so good in soups and dips. I have my entire bag of broccoli. I'll measure out 3 cups of milk, a cup of shredded cheese, salt and pepper, and these goodies. The first thing I'm going to add is the carrot, butter, onion. It's hot. So I'll add that before my little guy helps dump everything else in. 2 pounds of broccoli, just frozen, is perfect. So easy and expensive. Cut all up of cubed Velveeta or the Aldi version. Again, I have a mixture this time. 1 can cream of celery soup. If you're new around here, I have a vegetarian daughter and I skip out on cream of chicken, and I often use cream of celery. Sometimes cream of potato, cream of onion if I can find them. Cup of shredded cheddar. 3 cups of milk and 1 cup of water. I just measured the milk and then I added a cup of water to it. And don't forget, frozen broccoli will have a bunch of extra juices coming out from that. Frozen vegetable always does. Okay. And then finally, I'm just going to grind salt and pepper on top. And then I'll probably end up doing that again later. And then Calvin can stir it. Don't measure the salt and pepper. I just go with whatever feels good. And I kind of try to just sprinkle across everywhere. Okay, Cal, we're gonna give it a gentle stir because it doesn't really stir. It doesn't really mix yet. We're just trying to even things out of it. Okay, so to the hot water, I'm adding 2/3 cup sugar. And I'm gonna let that dissolve, and 1.5 tablespoons yeast on top, and we'll let that feed on the sugar, get nice and bubbly for the next 15 minutes. Okay, so you can see my sugar, yeast, and water has bubbled. I'm adding it to the mixture now. Oh my goodness, go down. I'm adding in 1/4 cup of vegetable oil, 1.5 teaspoons of salt, and just 3 cups of flour to start. And then we'll change out to the dough hook and add the rest of the flour. I always like to plan what I'm doing around my food because there's nothing worse than realizing you have 50 minutes to kill after you just spent 50 minutes getting ready. Well, I could spend that 50 minutes getting ready while the dough's rising, right? So it makes sense, if you can, to pay attention. And I'm not perfect, I forget that kind of stuff all the time. But the more I meal plan, the easier it is and the better I am at it. Yay, dough. Okay, so the first thing I'm doing is going to grease this bowl completely, because once I knead the dough, it's gonna be ready to go right into here, and then I'll save my paper towel to grease my bread pans too. I'm using extra virgin olive oil. It works really well for bread doughs or pizza crust. I'm going to knead my dough a little bit, and then I'm gonna place it in this bowl and cover it, and it's gonna rise. I love kneading doughs. I don't know what it is. I think it's almost like a stress ball to me, but I really love to knead bread dough. All right, so I'm gonna leave my bread. If you've never formed like a ball of dough, you kind of tuck it into the middle. Always reminds me of a brain, but you just kind of get it down like that. I'm gonna cover this with saran wrap, or you can use a damp towel. I'm just gonna choose saran wrap. Putting it right in here. It actually tells you to kind of flip it so it's greased all over. And it says to let it double or about 50 minutes. So that's what my plan is. Here's my bread dough, and it's huge, as you can see. And I now need to punch it out. My hands are of course washed. I need to flatten it. Okay, so I'm gonna get 2 loaves of bread out of this. So I'm just stretching it a bit. I'm gonna cut it and work in 2 different halves. I'm gonna try to be as close to half as I can. Just shake off some of the excess flour. So there, I have 1 loaf of bread. You can see I'm just gonna kind of make it a little, maybe a little more even. Both of these now sitting, and I'm gonna cover them with my same saran wrap and let them sit until they double in size. So there they are, and we'll be back about 45 minutes later to check on them. Okay, it's loud because I'm an air fryer going for lunch, but this is 3 hours in, and then it will just eventually turn just to warm, but you can see it's all nice and ooey and gooey and warm in here. I'm just breaking up the cheeses, kind of giving them a chance to mingle with the other cheeses. Okay, so here it is. This is about 40 minutes in, and I'm gonna stick it in the oven at 350 for 25 minutes. I'm putting a stick directly on top using the heat. Okay, so I'm just finishing up the buttering, and I actually have a long time before we have to go somewhere. I'm kind of hoping the excess butter will drip on the edges down into the pan, but they'll be nice and done by the time we get home. I mean, they're done now, but they're supposed to cool for at least 10 minutes. And we're gonna be gone way longer than 10 minutes. And my soup is done, and I'm just gonna turn it to warm. And that way, when I go to physical therapy for my daughter, everything is just gonna be done. And we'll be ready right when I come home, which is why I picked a crock pot meal for today. One thing that you can do, if you don't like your broccoli cheese soup to be brothy and to have these big florets, is you can take an immersion blender and blend just part of it. So like, I might stick it in and blend just this side and then stir it up, and you get some big broccolis and some little broccoli, and then you get a little thicker of a soup. I do that sometimes. I'm not gonna do that today because I just don't feel like it. But you can, it doesn't change what's in the soup, it just makes it a little thicker and less big chunks. But I like it like this, you guys. This is so yummy. Amish bread, it's sweet and it was amazing. My entire family actually really loved it. It was pillowy soft and the sweetness made it pretty addictive. So I can't be the only one that reads in a recipe 4 cloves of garlic, so I instantly do 8. I love garlic, and naturally I just assume people that make recipes don't like it as much as me. Okay, so I'm gonna chop these shallots up, and these are gonna be the first things fried in this recipe. So the chopping continues with green onion, according to directions, and you need quite a bit, so I'm gonna get started. And I'm gonna steam broccoli on the side. I have lots of broccoli and lots of broccoli eaters. So I just clean out the broccoli and steam it and just serve it like that. I start off by frying the shallots that I just cut in vegetable oil. I remove them from the heat. I'll add sesame oil, and for about 1 minute, the recipe tells you to fry up the garlic and the green onions. And then after 1 minute of cooking, you add in the 1/3 cup soy sauce, a tablespoon of brown sugar, 2 tablespoons of lime juice, and 3 tablespoons of the chili garlic. I am not gonna use the red pepper because I think this will be enough heat for my little guy. And then once the sauce has come together, you add in your cooked rice noodles and you toss it around and you get the crack noodles. And I'm serving it with broccoli. Adding the sesame oil. I'm gonna toast it a little bit. Once it's fragrant, I'll add the garlic and green onions. Now that everything's in the pan, you want to reduce the sauce a bit. It says about 3 to 5 minutes, and the noodles take 4 minutes to cook, so I will be able to just move these noodles right into the sauce and toss them, and my broccoli will be done steaming by then, and dinner will be ready. I'm gonna give my noodles some attention. Last time I made these noodles, they stuck together more than I realized they would, so I'm gonna make sure I'm very careful in separating them in the cooking process. So hopefully I don't get as much stuck together as I did last time. And once they're done, I'm just gonna literally lift them directly from here into the sauce. And the broccoli's back there. It's a really quick come together if you have everything prepped. Okay, so now it's all mixed and we just serve it in a bowl. with broccoli. Easy peasy. This took 14 minutes to put together. So these look similar to the drunken noodles, but these sauces are very different. I did buy the noodles at the same time to try both dinners, but I'm super excited. It smells amazing. The lime smells delicious. Okay, so it is way earlier than dinner time, but I'm about to get this Applewood smoked bacon. I'm making a full pound from the Great Value brand. I line a cookie sheet or two, depending on how it fits, and stick it in the oven. And you guys know I make my bacon early in the day so that I don't have to worry later in the day. It can be cooked, and then I'll just stick it tonight. Since we're having like a breakfast dinner, I will stick the cooked bacon like on the skillet that I'm making eggs with and just reheat it that way. But getting the bacon done ahead of time is just one less thing to think about at dinner, and it's 1 in the afternoon, and getting it done now, I can go do stuff in the basement while this is baking and don't even worry about it at dinner. So breaking up my dinner really helps me get dinner done with low stress. Are there any 3-year-old boys that want a piece of bacon? Are there any? Raise your hand. So I am making the Cracker Barrel hash brown casserole. It is in this top secret book. My sister had this when she was a child and had my mom pass it along to me. The only substitution I'm making is vegetable stock that I home make instead of beef stock. And we're gonna get it going. I will type it out in the description below. So I'm shredding up a block of Colby Jack. Yummy, freshly shredded cheese. Okay, so I'm about to mix everything according to the directions. I'm going to mix my minced onion, a 1/4 cup of minced onion, with the Colby Jack, 2 cups there, and the entire bag. It's a 30-ounce bag. The recipe actually only calls for 26, so I'll reserve just a little bit. The frozen hash browns. And then in the other bowl, I'm gonna mix my vegetable stock, my salt and pepper, my milk, and my melted butter. And then we end up mixing them both together after they're mixed separately, heating them in the cast iron skillet on the stove top. And once the cheese is melted, I'll move it to the oven. This is all according to the directions. Let's go. Okay, so in this one, I'm adding just a dash of garlic powder, 2 tablespoons of melted butter, 1/2 cup of milk, 1/2 cup of vegetable stock. I actually make that myself. Salt and pepper, a 1/2 teaspoon of pepper, a teaspoon of salt. And then I'm gonna mix that all up. These mixing bowls are really nice because they have grip bottoms and they don't slide on my countertops as I'm mixing, and I'm doing it one-handed. I have linked them below, but I also really love the colors. They're so nice and bright, especially on this winter day. And while that's melting, I'm gonna add them right on top of my hash browns. All of this in there. And I stir it around until the cheese is melted. My oven is preheated to 425 because this will get plopped right in the oven for 45 to 60 minutes depending on how crispy and done you want it. I'm probably going to go more towards the 60 side, but you get the cheese starting to melt on the stove top before you put it in the oven. And the cast iron skillet is obviously perfect for dishes like this. This is going to be my favorite part of this dinner, I know for sure, but I love Brinner, breakfast for dinner. And I have bacon and cheesy hash brown casserole. I just can't imagine it being better than this, to be honest with you. A nice evenness to it. So bakes evenly. So I'm gonna just toast in my toaster English muffins and raisin bread just for sides. I'm not really gonna show that, but we just like to have them buttered, and you can load them with bacon or egg or whatever you want. But I think you guys get toasting. And there we, and so here we have our salt and peppered fried eggs. 2 of them have cheese for my kiddos. And then the bacon has reheated wonderfully. And we'll just let that sit there till the casserole is done. I have started my English muffins. I got my toaster going. And this just got done. So this looks amazing. I'm gonna serve myself. And every time I've made this, it definitely sticks. Just the cheese. If my beef tostada sounded really good to you, not only is it a budget-friendly meal, but I have a whole playlist of under $10 dinners you can check out right here, and it includes my beef tostadas. So check that out. Thank you so much for watching. Chow down and chow.